Welcome. You are back for another episode of Pirates of the ... This is the podcast series where we go through the golden age of piracy characters, and this is all in support of a book that I'm writing. And today we're going to talk about a strong character for the book, somebody that I've totally fallen for as a character. This pirate's name is Anne Bonny. She is one of the very amazing, strong, quite a story behind her female pirates of this age. And Anne was this fiery, redheaded pirate that talked and dressed and swore like all of the rest of the pirates, the men, and then also became friends with other notorious woman pirate, Mary Read, that we had talked about on a previous podcast. So I hope you're ready for this one. She is a very, very colorful character during this time frame. So Anne Bonny was born around 1700 in Ireland, which means during the time of this of my book, and as well as the very important 1718 time frame, she's probably only 17 or 18 years old, maybe just a year or so older than that. She was the daughter of a servant woman whose name was Mary Brennan, and Brennan's employer, who was a lawyer named William Cormac. Now, the official records about her life are scarce, and most of the knowledge that we have of Anne Bonny comes from the book, The General History of Pirates, and that was written by, we think an alias at this point, but Charles Johnson, or a pen name, which was Charles Johnson. You can find this book online. You can find this book reprinted many, many, many times, but it's a little rough reading because it's written in the terminology of the day, English terminology, the Old English. It's a little bit difficult for a read. But anyway, Bonny's father, William, he moved to London to get away from his wife's family. And when he had Anne, she was an illegitimate daughter outside of his marriage. And he began dressing Anne as a boy and calling her Andy. And when Cormac's wife discovered that he had an illegitimate child that was being passed off as a boy, she stopped giving him an allowance, and he had to basically kind of get out of town. He moved Anne and her mother to the province of Carolina, and he tried to become a lawyer again, but he really didn't do well as a lawyer in the New World. So he ended up becoming actually a very profitable merchantman, and accumulated a substantial fortune outside of a lawyer and doing these types of work. Unfortunately, though, Anne's mother died when she was about 12 years old. So the dad had a hard time with her. She was definitely a willful, maybe a little hard to deal with child. He kept dressing her as a boy to a certain extent, until he decided, once she developed into a young woman, that he needed to marry her off. But she wasn't having any of it. She wasn't happy with any of his suitors, and she wanted to set out on her own to find somebody that she felt that she was going to fall in love with. And she had a wild streak with her, and she met this small-time pirate, small-time thief in the Carolinas named James Bonny. And she started basically, at the time she was hooking up with James Bonny. There is this story where Bonny was seen hooking up with this pirate after her dad specifically forbid her to see him and wanted her to find a much more reputable man. But this servant girl had seen her and supposedly had told the father about what was going on between her and James. And, you know, this is the beginning of Anne, because she ended up stabbing that servant girl with a knife. Well, things didn't go according to plan after that. They really had a falling out. Anne married James against her father's will, and then her father disowned her and completely just kicked her out of the house. So Anne and James were kind of on their own, and James is not a successful pirate by any means. He's not a successful sailor at all. And so they decided to ditch the Carolinas and go where most pirates were making a life for themselves in Nassau. And so somehow they boarded a ship. I'm not sure exactly if they were crewing on it or whatever. There is no real story about their in-between time from the Carolinas to Nassau. But it is worth mentioning that there's a story that in retaliation, our little firecracker Anne Bonny set fire to her father's plantation in retaliation for disowning her. So a little parting gift as she left. So Bonny and her husband began a pirate life in Nassau, trying to get in with all the other pirates, trying to become part of the crew and the establishment there. Bonny began mingling with other pirates as well. Now, after this much time has passed and she's gotten to know James a bit, James did not have the best reputation for, one, being a good pirate, a good sailor, and was a bit craven. So he was a bit of a spoiler. When pirates were sought after by the governors and things like that, he would rat them out. So not a great guy, not a great pirate, very opportunistic, to the detriment of Anne, I think, because Anne decided that she was not very happy in this marriage. And when she met a very dashing calico Jack Rackham in the taverns of Nassau, she fell in love. And Rackham, he offered money to her husband James if he would divorce her, but her husband refused and threatened to beat Rackham. And this is a little interesting because Rackham was supposed to be a very successful pirate, and you would think that he might have been able to handle himself with this James Bonny, but there's no descriptions of the men in comparison to say that one would be able to best the other. But regardless, she and Rackham, Anne and Rackham, escaped the island after her husband, went to the governor and was accusing her of infidelity, and Rackham of taking his wife as a lover. And so they felt they needed to get the hell out of there. So they did. They got on another ship, and Anne disguised herself as a man again. She was used to this. This was something that she had done throughout her life. And so because a lot of boats, a lot of sailing vessels did not allow women on those ships. They thought it was bad luck. So this is kind of where you would find these stories of women pirates, of women disguising themselves as men just to even be on these ships and acting as a crew member. So disguised as a man, she actually was on the same ship as Mary Read, who was disguising herself as a man as well. Interestingly enough, there are stories that Rackham and Anne had a child, that she became pregnant while they were conversing together, right? And when it became clear, like showing the belly, that and was pregnant, Rackham landed her in Cuba, where she ended up giving birth to a son. Now, there's no mention of what happens to that son, other than the son is not with them as they continue on their pirate life. So I don't know if the son was given away or the son died at birth. I can't find any information on that. So she ends up joining Rackham again in the pirate life on the same ship as Mary Read is on. Bonny and Rackham and Reed and some of the other pirates, they ended up stealing this ship called the Willem. And it was just anchored out in the Nassau Harbor. And so they kind of commandeered it while it was there without anyone really putting up that much of a fight. So basically, they basically carjacked this ship. And then when they put it out to sea, Brackett and the two women, they recruited more crew as they were out and about. And they spent years in around the Bahamas and to Jamaica, taking part in the pirate life, taking ships. The two women took part in combat, just like the men. And then when it was, so they were friends, right? Reed and Bonny, during this time, but both of them were still acting as though they were men. Well, Bonny kind of took a shine to Reed as a man, basically dressed in kind of opposite of drag, right? So Mary Read was a rather striking, handsome woman herself, and then dressed as a man. She must have been attracted to Bonny, who was also looking for attractive men. And so it's just really kind of a crazy story, but they seem to have a romantic relationship between the two. And Rackham finds out, thinking that his woman in drag is now going out with another man, but in fact it was a woman. And so before he became so jealous, finding out about this romantic relationship, the two women told Rackham about the sex of Mary Read, so that he wouldn't, duel her, or get, into a fight over this. And so there's speculation that all three of them shared a relationship, but that's just speculation at this. There's no documentation on this, and there's no crew members on this that ever wrote anything down, as most of them never could write or read during this time. So it just goes down in history as speculation. There's plenty of images of the two of them, Bonny and Reed, battling together on ships. In fact, there's an account from a woman who was on a ship that the Willem had been attacked by. She was a victim of the pirates. Her ship was a victim of the pirates, and she tells this description. This is interesting because the rest of the crew must have realized at some point in time, and then over time just let it go, that these two women were on the ship as pirates, and it was okay, because they would wear men's jackets and long trousers, but each of them had their shirts, you could see that they had breasts. And this is the account of this Dorothy Thomas, who said that you could see that from the largeness of their breasts that these were women pirates. They cursed, and they had machetes and pistols, and swore like the men, and they were telling Dorothy Thomas that they were going to murder her, for her jewels. And so just, they were definitely, these two women, living the pirate life. And I think on the podcast that I did about Mary Read, I talked about how there was a story where, in the end, when they were battling, they had been partying all night long, and then there was a pirate hunter that tracked them down, and they were boarding the ship, and everybody was too drunk or sick or whatever underneath in the hold, and only Bonny and Reed were on deck, fighting basically how they were fighting to the end, and that they were the only ones brave enough to do this, and they were yelling at the men down underneath. And even Rackham himself was not on deck, but down below, cowardly acting, that the women were the only ones that were fighting at that point in time. And then there was a story that Mary Read was, in fact, she's so badass that she used her pistol or her blunderbuss to shoot down into the hold and actually killed one of her own crew members for being a coward. They were ended up, actually, I'm not going to say how they ended up, because of course they go on, and Mary and Anne are integral stories for my book. I'm not going to tell you how it's ended with them in the real history, but it is interesting read if you want to check it out online. But they go on, and they have quite amazing adventures in my book. And Anne Bonny is this character that, I just while writing her, I'm just in awe of her quite a bit. I'm in awe of her strength, and her even through her strength, the femininity that she does have, and her relationship with Rackham, and and how that would turn out if they were able to spend more time together. How would that work? Would she be able to maintain a relationship with this guy? He does seem like he ended up being a coward. Similar, I think she has bad taste in men, from James Bonny to Calico Jack Rackham, but this is all part of the fiction that I've created, I suppose. So book is coming along really well. Once again, I'm very close to ending this, and then I will figure out a title for it and announce that. I have a few other characters that I still want to get out through this podcast series, and this will be coming up pretty soon. We'll have another one coming out maybe in like a week or so. I'll bring another one to light for you. I hope you're enjoying this. You can reach me at darkgravitystudios@gmail.com if you want to email me. And I'm on Facebook now as well. So if you're enjoying this, please give me a shout out. And I hope that, just missed it. Today's the 20th, but yesterday was Talk Like a Pirate Day. I feel that was a big deal, at least from the people that I talked to that are into the pirate life. I hope you got to to see that while it was going on, and talk like a pirate a little bit to somebody. And that's it. That's what was going on. I'll be back at you soon. I hope you guys go out there and live life. See you later.